Whenever you are.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Myers, and we're here at the Bible History Exhibits. And I want to take you around through the exhibits to give you a tour so you know what things are about here at the Bible History Exhibits. And we're going to start with Genesis here and sort of go all the way around the room to Revelation, pointing out the highlights. Right down here at the bottom is from Ethiopia on red deerskin, the opening chapters of Genesis in Hebrew. And Hebrew is the opposite of English. You start from the back of the book and you read to the front, reading right to left, just the opposite of English. That's original from Ethiopia. But a lot of these others are going to be copies, replicas, and recreations from around the world. Here we have the 7 tablets of creation called Imel Elish. Then we have the Atrahasis tablet talking about creation and then going all the way to the flood. Here we have another cylinder that talks about creation. Now these stories of creation are not the same that's in the Bible. These are written before the Bible was written, but it gives us an idea what they believed about creation, and that they thought there was a great flood. So it's interesting to compare and contrast these ancient writings with the Bible. Then up here, I think the Garden of Eden is right where the Tigris and Euphrates come together there at the Persian Gulf. I think there's another dried up river coming this way, another river this way for the 4 rivers of Eden. And now this one here, they took like satellite photos to see where the dried up river used to go. And you can still see part of it even today. And they don't think Adam and Eve ate an apple, but some think it was a pomegranate. It doesn't tell us for sure, it just says fruit. Then the writing here in the Mesopotamian Valley started off by marking down how many sheep and goats you had. And then they started drawing pictures, pictograms. That's a lot of trouble, so they shortened to little wedge shapes called cuneiform. So this would be a soft clay tablet. You take a reed and make your marks on the clay. And if you wanted to keep it, you would bake it. Here is one of the oldest medical tablets, all in Sumerian. And some of the earliest legal text or tablet, all in Sumerian. Then we want to go over to this other side here, the flood. There's a number of tablets that talk about this great flood. Here we have the Epic of Gilgamesh, or Gilgamesh. Here's Gilgamesh right here. He goes to Utnapishtim, who tells him of a great flood, which would be our Noah. And we think this great flood he's talking about is Noah's flood of the Bible. Here's an even earlier account, the Sumerian flood tablet. It's now at the University of Pennsylvania Museum, or the Penn Museum, talking about this great flood. We also have the Ark tablet. This talks about building the Ark and going in 2 by 2. It was recently translated by Irving Finkel from the British Museum, who wrote a whole book about it. And he's almost as old as I am. And these all tell about the flood. And it's interesting, here we have the Gilgamesh epic and the Old Testament parallels, showing the similarities and difference in these the stories of the great flood. That some put at 2900 BC. And then some think Nimrod was Gilgamesh. the mighty hunter before the Lord. Then we have the Sumerian king list. Down here it mentions 10 kings before the great flood. In the Bible you have the 10 patriarchs, and some think the last 3 or 4 names in all these lists are referring to the same people, just different spellings. Then we come down here to Abraham. Abraham leaves Ur, and I think it's the Ur in the north called Urfa today. And here you can see a modern city, some of the ancient ruins, and then here's the Pool of Abraham there. So I think this is the Ur in the Bible. It says Chaldees, but the Chaldees came like 1,000 years later, so we know it can't be the Chaldees. And then he goes to Haran, and there's a picture of a Haran down there. And then from Haran, he goes all the way, travels all the way to Hebron, where Abraham is buried today. That's a mosque there, and he's inside there along with Isaac is buried there as well. Then we want to look right below, I should say, he stops in Jerusalem and meets Melchizedek. And some think this is the ruins of the temple there of Melchizedek in Jerusalem. Then we want to, right below the Dead Sea, we have Lot's cave, where tradition has it that's where he fled from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The cave is way up in the mountain here on the Jordanian side of the Dead Sea. And it's also mentioned on the Madaba map right here in Zohar. And here we have the Dead Sea, Jordan River, and Jerusalem. This is the oldest map of the Holy Land. And it's in Madaba, Jordan. Then we want to turn over here, the Tower of Babel. They found this big stone stela, and faintly you can see the Tower of Babel there, or Babylon. And here we made a model based on that. And so at the very top would be the temple. At Ur, that's probably the best preserved one, and they're called ziggurats. You can see the Jeep, so it's a huge tower. There'll be more buildings on top. That's all that's left of it. And the one at Babylon would be 3 times bigger than that. Then also at Ur, way at the bottom here, we have Sir Leonard Woolley discovers the tomb of Queen Puapi with all this gold, jewelry, beads, and other things in her tomb there. The original's in Philadelphia in the Penn Museum. A nice big museum there to go see. Now I want to move down into Egypt. The Egyptians carved scarab seals. This is a real big one, after the scarab beetle, which was sacred to the Egyptians. And they would carve on the bottom of the person's name, and this one says Jacob Hur, which may be the Jacob of the Bible. Then down here at Tel El Daba, they've been digging, they found a big palace with 12 tombs out back, something for the 12 tribes. The biggest tomb was the shape of a pyramid with a chapel in front. And in that chapel they found a broken statue, which some people think may be Joseph of the Bible. And here we have a recreation of it here. And here's what they think, if they artist drawing, what they think he may have looked like. But we don't know for sure. Then here we have people going down into Egypt, very similar to Joseph's brothers going down into Egypt. And here it tells us there's 37 of them. The upside down U is 10 in Egyptian, so you have 3 of them. That's 30 plus 7 ones. And this is at Beni Hassam in Egypt. Then we have the famine stela, and this talks about a 7-year famine. Then Moses leads them out of Egypt, and we have the Ipuwer papyrus that talks about plagues. The river is blood, very similar to the plagues of the Bible, and that's what some people think it's referring to. I think almost the first here may be the Pharaoh related to the Exodus, because he has a stela, what's left of it, so it'd be like a tombstone, but this is all that's left, talking about a great tempest, storm, darkness that may relate to some of the plagues of Egypt. Now, going along with this, some scholars think that God caused a volcanic eruption at Thera, creating a tsunami and wind to part the Red Sea. Then you have a pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire by night from the volcano. There's a whole book written about it by Ian Wilson. And then I have a shorter booklet here on the Exodus from Egypt. And the main thing here is that the Exodus from Egypt, according to Josephus and most ancient writers, is equated with the expulsion of the Hyksos from Egypt. Of course, not all Israelites were Hyksos, but they thought that's in ancient times, that it was that time of the Exodus from Egypt when the Hyksos were expelled from Egypt. And here we have some relating to these here, and that the eruption there at Thera covered the whole cities there, and they think that this might have been the time where you have the plagues and the Exodus from Egypt. Now, we have here the crossing of the Red Sea. I think if you follow the Hebrew, it's near Lake Bala in Egypt. Then you go into the wilderness of Shur, onto Elam, and then Mount Sinai, the traditional spot where Moses is given the Ten Commandments. So here they're coming out of Egypt, crossing the Red Sea up here, coming down here to Elam, and then over here to Mount Sinai. According to Jewish legend, the Ten Commandments were written on lapis lazuli, a very beautiful blue stone. Moses is also told to build the tabernacle, and so we have a small model of the tabernacle here. And we also have the golden calf there. Then they're looking to the bronze serpent. Then from Mount Sinai, they go to the Gulf of Aqaba. And then from there on to Kadesh Barnea, which some think is Petra. The tallest mountain at the top has Aaron's tomb by tradition. The most famous is the treasury there at Petra. You may recognize it. This is where they filmed Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Then over here we have, well, I should say here, this is very important at the Temple of Karnak. This tells us the way of Horus and gives us an idea the way the Israelites may have come out of Egypt. And that's at Karnak, and this is a small model of Karnak. There's a lot of things related to the Bible at Karnak, the largest temple in Egypt in ancient times. Now, another interesting discovery was the Balaam inscription. And if you remember, the donkey talks to Balaam and he's forbidden to curse Israel. This is in Amman, Jordan, in their archaeological museum. Then Moses, at the end of his life, goes up to the top of Mount Nebo. He looks out over the promised land. He's not allowed to go in, but Joshua will lead them in. And here's the view from the top of Mount Nebo.